Welcome to step 6 for married and alone. Now I know if you're married and alone, you have not caused the reasons you're in recovery. But recovery has so many gifts to give you if you stay in the process. Now you're at step 6. We're halfway there. So stay tuned, watch what we're going to get into, and please, if you have a question, put it in the box. If you've yet to subscribe, push that little button so that you can get notified. We have literally hundreds of helpful teachings and things in your recovery process that can help you or help someone you love if you know about them. So please take advantage of that and stay tuned. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about step 6 for married and alone. Now, I want to first say congratulations if you have been actually doing the workbook steps 1 through 5. If you're working in the married and alone workbook on the steps, you are making some real progress. And then what we're doing here is just giving you kind of the general idea, kind of the thought process, but the work, I don't want you to confuse listening to me and doing your own work. Because if you do your own work, you're going to get the benefit. If you just listen to me, you're going to get knowledge. The steps are not knowledge, they're experiences, and that's what the steps wants to give to you. It wants to give you experiences so that you actually get some gifts, you get some healing, you get some really cool things. I've gotten so much out of doing my step 6. I'll get to that in a moment. Now, let me read this. We're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of characters. Now, I want to spend some time on the word entirely. Okay, because that's a challenging word. You know, when you're married and alone, you've been in pain, you've been neglected, you've been hurt, you've been pushed aside. And that's real. And the addiction of the other person has caused you to be in recovery. I understand that. But if you will do recovery, you'll get so much out of it. Now, let me give you this word entirely, because entirely is so important. Entirely is not, you know, God, I have a little problem with, or God, if you could just kind of take this down a notch, I'd really appreciate that. Don't get rid of it, just to soften it, okay? That's not entirely. Let me give you kind of a story or an illustration of entirely. Okay, entirely means you're all in. So let's suppose you got some kind of really rough diagnosis. Let's think about this. Let's suppose that you actually got labeled with something that's incurable. Not only incurable, you're going to die in 6 weeks. Not only are you going to die in 6 weeks, you're going to die horribly. Your bones are going to hurt excruciatingly. Your muscles are going to feel like they're popping. Your blood pressure is going to be up. You're going to have headaches and migraines. You're not going to be able to eat. You're going to throw up anything you do, and you're in pain. Now, a doctor walks into the room and he says, you know, we have a cure for you. If you will follow what I need you to do, you will never have this pain again. It's going to take a little bit of a process, but we've tried this, it works. If you will do it, you can have this total healing of your life. Now you're laying there in your excruciating pain. You're feeling tortured. You're feeling like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And yet this person's going to give me hope. Entirely is, I'm in, doc. I don't even care to know what it is. I'm in. I don't need to know the process. I don't need to know the medicine. I just need to know that this is going to stop. I'm going to get back to my family, back to my spouse. I'm going to live a happy life. I'm going to have another 30, 50 years of life, and I'm going to be able to enjoy my life. I just need to be all in. That's all in. And when you're all in and you're ready to have God, then things can really, really happen. Now, I will tell you, this is a God process. This is not a self-help program, although I'm totally okay with you, getting books, getting accountability, wherever you need to do, even set up consequences. But this is a God thing. This is where we're ready to have God do something that we can't do. I can't remove my impatience. I can work on it. I can't remove it. I can't remove some of the defects that are in my life. And this is really, really important. I remember specifically when I was in New Mexico. I was doing a recovery conference early in my career. And I was up in a hotel room, and I decided this is going to be where I'm going to do, going to make a list of my character defects that I'm entirely ready to God to remove. And hopefully at some point you do that very specifically because it'll help you. And I remember writing and writing and writing. And I was just writing like one word, and another word, and another word. And like, oh my gosh, Doug, you have a lot of defects, man. Okay, now of course I was 30 years old or younger, probably younger. And I was just making a list of my character defects, okay? I was really ready. I took that time to really say, God, I'm ready. Here's my list. I'm ready, so ready to have you remove all these defects of character. Now see that when you're asking God, it's not in a place of like, let's just have a gentle little prayer. Let's just, God, thank you so much for this day. And, if you would like to remove these defects, no, it's storming the gates of heaven. It's saying, God, I can't live this way anymore. I'm selfish. I'm rude. I'm punishing. I'm cruel. I'm disgusted at the way I talk to people. I'm negative. I don't really look like you in certain areas. And I'm sick of it. I need you to take the cancer out of my body, out of my soul, out of my spirit. Take it out. That's when you know that you're ready to have God remove all these character defects. Now, I will let you know that God will let himself be God. And that God's going to say, okay, thank you. And he's going to take the position of the surgeon. And as the surgeon, he's going to create a list of priorities. Now, you might think your impatience is the most important thing, but he might think the way you judge people is more important. And he will begin to knock on the door of doing those things for you. Now, I tell people in step 6, it's really, really important to stay close to God. And if you got this massive splinter in your finger and someone's halfway across the room, they can't help you out. So you want to be close to God. You want to be so close that he can grab a hold of that thing and he can pull it out of you. You want to be close to God in step 6 because he's going to be in a process and you want to hear it. And it might be serendipitously. I'll never forget, I was sitting outside of a therapy group in a psychiatric hospital because I was a tech. And my job was to make sure that nobody got out of the room. And so I would just sit there and someone gave me a book. It was called Sugar Blues. And I wasn't really expecting to get much out of it. I was just reading it because it was there. And I started reading it. I got really convicted about my sugar addiction. Because at that point, I was known always to have not the little bags, but the big bags, like the 1 pound bags of peanut M&Ms. That, to me, that's the perfect food. Protein, chocolate, it's awesome. And so I would always have these in my bag, in my backpack, when I was getting my master's degree. And I sat there reading this book and I wasn't expecting God to deal with the character defect of my sugar addiction. From that point, I was off for 10 years and I've been off 10 years again and 10 years again. I've had sugar in probably over 12 years now, refined sugar. But that was a defect that I didn't see that he saw. And it would affect my moods and I got tired all the time. It was a problem. But see, let God pick the order. That's not what step 6 is. Step 6 isn't you helping God. Step 6 is turning your defects over to God, kind of like you did in step 1, where you turn or step 3, where you turn life and will over to God. Here you say, here's my defects. You do what you can, when you can, how you can. And trust me, I've heard so many stories of God doing fantastic things with their defects of character. Sometimes they're painful. And what I really strongly encourage you, don't hold on to them when he's starting to pull it out of you. Don't dig your claws in and say, no, no, no. Say, okay, God, it's time. It's time that I stop being so rude. It's time I stop being so selfish. It's time I stop being arrogant or grandiose or maybe even self-loathing. That to me is a huge character defect. I see a lot, and a lot more in women than men, but they put themselves down and they talk negatively. They talk about how limited they are. That's definitely a character defect. And so whatever yours are, let God know what they are and let him know that you're entirely ready to get rid of these defects of character. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do. There's a lot of support out there for you in the forms of these videos. We look forward to going through the rest of the steps with you.